So what we're going to talk about in this lesson is line of action, how to kind of get your character to do what you want it to do, and how to make your stuff look good. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to get your character looking a little more natural and get away from the coffee table leg pose, even when they're just standing. Or if I bring this to the front view here, what we want to do is get a nice heart-shaped pose out of this guy. So if I add a frame here, here's your shoulders, and your mass is right here, right? What you want to do is have everything kind of come down to a point here. Imagine like an ice cream cone or a heart or something. That's basically what you want your pose to look like. Is this is a silhouette here, this kind of a thing. So we're going to try to get the legs under the character, and that's how we're gonna work. View here. Bring my grease pencil back here one more time. You've got your shoulders here and your hips here, and they are connected by the spine that runs down the center. So basically, when the character's left foot is forward, let me bring my red back here, your shoulders are going to do this. Now your hips and shoulders are usually doing the opposite, so that would mean that the hips are doing this. So if your shoulders are doing this and your hips are doing this, that's going to cause your spine to kind of do a curve like this. So you're going to get this kind of S-shaped thing that happens over and over. And the same is true for a front view. So if I go to my front view here, if I've got my hips in the front, or my shoulders in the front doing this, right? Imagine that this side of the shoulders are down and this side's up. Then the hips in the back are going to do the opposite. It's going to be a little hard to see here. So imagine this is farther back here. That's why it's smaller. That's going to cause a twist that happens down the spine. So as long as you keep those things in mind, it's really not that difficult to do a quadruped walk pretty quickly. So let's just start by getting this leg out. Let's get some nice curves here. Facing forward, cool. Okay. So I want that rotated this way, and the hips, like I said, are going to do the opposite. So that's going to give me this pose. Do that set to off. So this is going to come forward right here. And I'm just eyeballing this right now. I'm not setting any keys yet. I just want to see how this pose looks. That's the pull vector for the front arm. Here's the pull vector for the back leg. Let's get that there. And then these are going to be doing that. There we go. And it's okay if this crosses over the center line, because these are not going to be in the same place at the same time. So if you want to look at it from the front view or back view and line these up so that they're cat's kind of walking on a tightrope. That's looking good there. Now we have a little bit of a problem here where the leg is breaking. It comes out of this pose here. Let's see if we can fix that by adjusting the hip a little bit. I may need to. I don't think the paw roll does anything on this rig for some reason, so we're not going to have that roll. And I just want to eyeball this so that I have roughly the same space between here and here. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay. So that's our basic pose for the walk. Let's get this rotated down a little bit. And let's get this rotated up a little bit. And then we'll bring him down globally a little bit too. And that'll give him a little more space here with these clavicles come up. Which always looks cool on a cat to have that there. Just so he looks a little cool. Maybe these will, not quite as low as what we had before, pinned back, but maybe something close to that. That looks okay. I'm not worried about the tail right now. I just want to try to get some foot placement and rough timing for the walk. So what we did here was we got the spine kind of working. Now, I haven't done anything to head and neck really yet, except for basic pose. I haven't done get him walking forward. And we're going to focus mostly on foot placement, but then also talk about getting the hips and shoulders to do what they need to do. So let's start here. Let's go to the side view. And here's our cougar. If you notice, it looks like his front feet are off the ground a little bit. I'm just going to let that go for now. You can move him down globally later. So to start with, we've got this kind of mid-stride here. I'm going to set my frame range from 0 to 30. And what I'm going to do is just do a cycle. So imagine you're doing this for a game or something. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it so that he's going to walk forward, but then we're going to take the forward motion out of it so that he's just walking kind of like on a treadmill. So Maya does not have currently a good set of rulers or anything. And if you're using older Maya or something, you know, how do you mark a spot and then keep it there so that you can see what's happening? So what I want to do is basically slide this character forward globally, but then maintain foot placement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get a forward motion on this anim global. This triangle underneath is going to move the entire character, including the IK legs. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this forward, and then we're going to counter it with the feet so that the feet slide backwards. So when we take the motion out of it, forward motion, it's going to look like he's walking. And then in a game engine or something, your forward momentum would come from the engine itself. You know, as the player pushes forward on the character controller, you know, he's going to move forward at a certain speed. So let's get that forward motion going here. So I'm going to set my frame range from 0 to 30. And basically what's going to happen is 0 is going to be this extreme. 15 is in the middle of that. That's going to be the opposite, so that his right leg is going to be forward and his left leg is going to be back. And then frame 30 is going to be identical to this one. So let's set a key on just the translate Z. Just going to key that. And then on frame 30, let's see here. Let's maybe on 15, I want this leg to be, I'm trying to get a good gauge of how far you can move comfortably. So one cheat that I do is I'll open up a menu, like maybe this one right here, and I'll hit this bar on the top, which will pop it off. And what that allows me to do is I can move this around, and what I do is I kind of use that as my marker. So if I know that the toes are here, I'm lining this up with that front foot. Now I can slide this, and I know that that front foot is going to have to be right about there. So that's about how far I can go in 15 frames. So let's move this 15 frames. I'm going to slide this global position here. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball that. And I'm going to set a key. So now he slides like this. Now if you notice, you know, I didn't use anything in that menu. I just popped it off so I could use it as placement. So we've got this kind of drift now, and he stops on frame 15. What I want to do is I want this forward motion to continue. So I'm going to go into my graph editor here. And I'm going to just kind of press F to frame this, and I'm going to view infinity so I can see what happens before and after these keys. And what I want to do is I want this to continue. So I'm going to say curves post infinity linear. And what that does is it moves. I'm going to go pre-infinity linear as well. That continues that graph so that the character will continue moving forward at that pace. So now he's going to just keep moving forward. So we're going to do like a stalkery kind of, you know, slow walk forward. And that's looking pretty good. Now what we need to do is get it so that his feet do what they need to do. So I'm just going to go to my side view here again. And on frame 15, this foot is going to stay planted. So when it gets right about there, that's when it's going to go back. So let me pop off this menu again. And I'm just going to, actually I need to move it here so I can actually grab the controller. There we go. So I'm going to set a key on frame 0, and then on frame 15, this is going to come back like this and be right about here. So now the result of that is when I animate this, when I let this play through, you can see that foot looks like it's locked off there. And that's basically what we're going to do to make sure that our foot placement works. All right. So on frame 30, I want this foot to be back forward again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy frame 0 to frame 30. So I'm just going to go to frame 0 and then middle mouse 30 and press S, and that'll set a key there. So now the foot does that. Now you notice it's not locked off anymore. If I bring this menu here and kind of use that as a guide, you see how it's got a little bit of a drift there? That's Maya helping you, which you want to avoid in this case. So I'm going to open my graph editor, and you can see here how it leaves this key kind of linearly, but then it eases into this here. I don't want that. I want to make this a linear tangent. So basically, now that foot stays where it's supposed to be. All right. So I'm going to do that to the other side as well. But first, let me get this working here. So this is, I'm going to pop this off here. So frame 30, that's where this foot is. Right. So I'm going to set a key on that. Frame 0 is going to be the same. Frame 15, this foot needs to be forward now. And it looks like we've got a bit of a problem. And the reason for that is because we rotated the shoulders and hips and never rotated them the other way for this. So it can't quite reach. So let's, while we're thinking about it, go in and set some keys on this. So I'm going to grab this, this, and this. And I'm going to set keys on 0, keys on 30. And on 15, these are going to be the opposite. So this is going to be, I'm going to make this a plus. All right, I'll set a key on that. And that's not rotated at all. And this is going to be in Y. I want to make this a negative. I'm going to set a key on that. So if I look at my graph for these 3 pieces, this is what we've got. And what I want to do is I'm going to flatten these tangents, and I'm going to pre and post infinity cycle these so that they repeat. All right, so let's look at side view again and go to frame 0, actually frame 30. This is the paw that I'm working with right here. Yeah. So I want that to stay kind of where it's at. So that looks good. Frame 15, that's going to slide it back. There we go. And again, it's drifting because Maya's helping us, so let's get rid of that. Oops. Let's F this frame our selection here. There we go. So now we've got just this kind of shuffle. And you see there's a little pop right there where he pulls away from the IK. We can fix that with our shoulder stuff when I start to mess with the clavicles and everything. But let's get our back feet doing that shuffle as well. So let's see, this is going to be 0, 30. On frame 15, I want that to stay where it's at. Change the color of my background here too. If I press Alt-B, it changes the color of the background. Makes it a little easier to see. I'm just going to bring this in here to line it up visually using it as a ruler. So frame 15, this foot is going to be back here. And then I'm going to go in and fix my graph on this, make these linear. So we've got 3 of the feet kind of working. I'll do that last foot now. Let's get that working. So frame 0, frame 30 is going to be the same. Frame 15 is going to be a different one. So let's look at that again. I'm just going to bring this down here, eyeball it. Frame 15, this foot's going to be forward, like that. And again, it's slipping because Maya's helping us. Let's get rid of that. Thanks, but no thanks, Maya. Let's go in and make these linear. All right, so that's our rough foot placement. For our feet, because right now he just kind of shuffles. And we're going to get some up and down on the body, and we're going to get some nicer line of action going. So let's start with our passing positions and see what they look like. Start with this leg here. So here, that's got the weight on it. It's left front, and its passing position is going to be about halfway here, like maybe 23. I'm going to bring this up this way. Actually, I'm not going to use the roll for that. I'm just going to translate it up and rotate it down. And I can bring it out a little bit like this. So let's see, that looks pretty good from the front. And I'm just translating it out enough to the side so that it clears that foot. All right. Haven't done anything with the roll yet or anything like that. Let's get passing position on this foot. It's about halfway, maybe around 8. This foot's going to come up like this. Bring this down. Rotate it like this maybe. And just move it over a little bit so that it's not cutting in. So that's pretty good. So it's still pretty rough, but we're just blocking it in. Let's get the back feet working. So that's bearing weight there. It's not going to lift until right about here. That's where it's going to do the passing position. So just like the front, we'll bring this back like this, rotate it down a little bit, and let's do one of these with it as well. Now, we haven't done anything to fix these legs yet or anything. There's some pretty weird stuff going on. Like right there, that's really ugly right there. We're going to have to fix that position. But for now, let's just focus on the passing positions. Let's get right about there is going to be a passing position for this foot. So let's bring this up. Let's rotate this down this way. Bring it out like this. Translate it over so it's kind of out of the way. Okay, looks like he got hit by a car or something right now. He's got a pretty severe bend to the side. And it's not the hips that's causing it. It's with this pull vector on the leg is posed strange. So let's set a key on 0 and 30 because you want that to be there. But on 15, that's where we've got that weird inner knee. Let's pull this out here, fix that. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to hide my curves here and just looking at that back leg to see. Okay, that's looking okay. Before we get too much farther with this, I want to add some up and down because it's really going to start to come together once we get that going. So I'm going to, this moves the whole upper body. Does move the feet. Does not move the feet. They're still going to be operated by the IK. I want this translate Y to be keyed there, and on 30 it's going to be the same, and on 15 it's going to be the same. Now in between here, on frame like 8, maybe, that's where I want to lift it up. And I don't want to go too far. I want to go just far enough that these legs straighten out when they're holding weight. So let's key that. And then I'm going to also middle mouse frame 23. I'll key that. So I basically copied my translate Y from frame 8 to frame 23. Now let's look at that in the graph editor. That's what we've got. I'm going to make these tangents linear, and then these I'm going to flatten, and I'm also going to free the tangent weight. let's see, free tangent weight. And that will allow me to select this and hold shift and middle mouse. I'm going to drag these out so that it really wants to favor these up bits here. And this, I'm going to flatten these as well for now. I'm going to cycle these. So all we did is we added some weight to these top bits here so that it wants to hug those top parts. So now we're starting to get a little bit of up and down. It's starting to look like something now. What we want to do is get some up and down in the actual hips and shoulders as well. Okay. So let's see. I keyed everything before on frame 0, 15, and 30. So these in-between bits here, that's where we've got to, that's where we can set keys now to get the upper part working. And you can even go in, and if you want to cheat this down a little bit, you can on frame 15 to fix that extra long extension there. It should fix that leg. 23, let's bring this up. Looking at it from this side here. And right now the timing is the same on the shoulders and hips and the cog. We're going to offset that in a little bit. But first let's get this working. So this 8, we want this leg to be a little bit straighter. You don't want to overdo it too much. Let's see what that looks like. Just play this here. Yeah, that's probably a little too high. Let's bring this back down. Actually, let me get rid of this key for now, delete it, and I'll just bring this up. And then I'll set a key on that, and then on 23, I'm going to bring this up as well. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, now you see we're starting to get a wag of the tail. That's that line of action I was talking about before. So we're going to continue that motion down the tail there and kind of get that working. Let's see. Now again, this is going to be a little weird because these are not set uniformly across the tail. So we're going to get a little bit of weirdness maybe. So I'm just going to go to the top view here. And I'm going to select this yellow ring. Basically, I just want to continue this line of action. So if I turn on my grease pencil here, see how I've got this kind of S shape working through the character. I want to continue that and make that look nice. So I'm going to select the tail bits here. Zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to press S to set a key on 0, again on 30, and on 15, these are going to come back the other way. Let's see what that looks like. Now these are turning black because it's clipping with the camera. Let's just move this camera up a lot higher. There we go. So for now, I've got the tail. It looks okay on some of the key poses, but the in-betweens look kind of bad. Let's fix that up. So in my graph editor, I'm just going to select all the keys. So I've got all those controllers selected. I'm going to flatten those tangents, and I'm going to pre-infinity cycle, post-infinity cycle. And the reason that we're setting those up to cycle is we're going to start to offset some things, and I want to make sure it does what it's supposed to do once we offset things. So let's look at this a little bit here. All right, that's looking pretty good. Well, let me see the side view again here. Tail's looking really stiff on the side here. Let's see if we can't fix that. Let's bring these down. and these up. So we get a nice curve on the tail. So 0 and 30 are going to be the same. 15. Let's get this down. And these up. Now, because I'm using this yellow ring, it's going to keep the rotations. It's just based on the camera. So it's going to allow for a smoother rotation based on just the camera. So let's see, there's 0, 15. Let's get these up a little higher. Let's and then as that's going up, these can kind of rotate down to counter. Do the same thing here. Now, again, the timing is identical on all this stuff, so it's looking really mechanical and robotic right now. We're going to start to offset things here and make it look nice. So right now it's still very stiff, still very robotic. We're going to open up our graph editor and start to offset some things. So first thing I want to do is I want to select this foot, and the shoulders. I'm going to go into my graph editor here. And let me just double check to make sure my shoulders are cycling. Yeah, they are, okay. So I've got my shoulders selected and that foot and this foot. Now, I noticed here my feet are not set to cycle. So what I want to do is go in here and curves pre-infinity cycle, curves post-infinity cycle. And the reason for this is when we offset, we want to make sure that they're animated. So let's do the same thing with these 2 feet because they're probably not cycled either yet. Nope. There we go. Let's get this pre-infinity cycle, post-infinity cycle. And let me just double check. The hips are doing that. The shoulders are doing that. Okay, cool. So I've got this foot, and these shoulders. Open up my graph editor. I'm going to select all of these. And just like we did with the bird wings, we're going to offset things here. So this first box tells you what frame the curves are on. The second box is the value. So what we're going to do is in this first box, I'm going to say minus equals, just offset it by 1 frame for now. So they're going to hit 1 frame before where they did before. Actually, you know what? Let's undo that. Let's go back here and make it a little more extreme so it shows up better. I'm going to select all these again. Say minus equals, let's say 3. That's a pretty good amount. Let's see what that looks like. All right, and I'm going to select this foot, and these hips here. And grab my graph editor, select all my keys, and I'm going to say plus equals 3, and that shifts it the other direction. So basically, when what I want to do is get it here so that when I've hit my extreme stride here, these are in passing position. Okay, so that's looking okay. Now, what I want to do to clean this up now is I'm going to go in and kind of get these shoulders working here. I haven't done anything to the shoulders yet. And I'm going to get the tail working and polish up maybe a little bit on the face, or not the face, but the head. So basically what I want to do here with the clavicles is get it any place where I've got an awkward pose here where the leg is too straight or something. I want to just kind of fix that a little bit. I'm going to key that. Here, I'll bring this back to 0. Maybe something like that. Let's see, 15. It's going to come up. Well, maybe not that much. Maybe something like that. Let's see how that looks. Maybe we'll bring this up a little bit. And I'm just checking to make sure I don't get any bad poses. Like here, it's a little too straight. Maybe something like that. All right, let's get the other side working here. I've got, let's see, let's bring this down a little bit. I'll duplicate that key to frame 30. Go in here, maybe it'll come up a little bit. And then here, you can see it's pulled away from the IK quite a bit. I need to fix that. Actually, let's zero this out. And then I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. Now here you see how this foot pulls there? That's the kind of thing you want to avoid. So let me just go in and bring this down a little bit, just to get the tension off that leg. So you get a little bit of a curve there. And it's okay if it's kind of straight, but you don't want it, you know, super straight where it pulls away from the IK. Okay, that's looking pretty good, I think. So let's turn off our curves here. And let me turn off the grid too, just so I can see what's going on here. Alright, he's stalking his prey. Now, I'm not super happy with these back legs. It'd be nice to get a little bit more extreme pose here. For the straights, let me turn my grid back on here. I'm talking about this back position on the feet. So one thing I can do is, without breaking anything, I can make it so that if I want this back foot pose to be, you know, something like that, a little more extreme, I can go into my graph editor here, find my Z translate on both of these, on both feet, right? And I'm just going to select this, see if I can fit this in the window so you can see. I'll frame that, and I'm just going to hold shift and middle mouse slide these so that they're back a little more. So basically what I want is I want that leg to really extend. And maybe that, I want to find a happy medium between a nice extension, but then have it so that the foot comes up far enough. It's looking pretty good. Alright, yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that for as much time we spent on it. We've got some nice tail stuff going. It follows the line of action on the body. So we can stop this at pretty much any in-between frame here and see. We can check it with a grease pencil here. Let me turn that on. So we've got our shoulders there, our hips there, and then our spine is doing this nice curve, and then that continues on through the tail. So we're getting this, well, I didn't draw a very nice curve there, let's see. There we go. So that's kind of what we've got going on there. And the last step for this, last step, no pun intended, what we want to do is get it so that he stays at the origin. So how do I do that? Well, I've got the, we slid this mover before, this main controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this Translate Z. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Mute Selected. And what that does is it'll keep it in place. So if we turn off our curves, now we've got our cougar walking in place. And we know that once he's moving forward at the rate that we animated that Z translate, his feet won't slide. So if you see sliding in video games or something, usually it's because it's translating forward at a rate that is not what it was animated to. So you want to try to avoid that if you can. Sometimes it's out of your control, sometimes design changes things or the needs of the game change. But for the most part, you want to try to animate at the same rate that the character is going to be translating forward in the game. Otherwise, you're going to get slippage and sliding, and that's never good for a natural-looking motion. So that's it. we did some foot stuff. We cleaned up some stuff. We offset some things, and I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. So hopefully you've got a good handle on how a cougar would walk.